Hi, everyone. My name is Amelia, and I'm 28 years old. I've always been the type who wears her heart on her sleeve. Emotional, maybe a little too trusting, but fiercely brave when it counts. But nothing could have prepared me for the day my wedding, the one moment I thought would bind my fractured family together, turned into a battlefield of buried secrets and shattered illusions. It all started with a simple toast from my stepbrother, and what happened next shocked everyone, including me. Let me take you back to that day. The sun was shining brightly over the elegant garden venue we'd chosen, with white roses cascading from every arch and the soft hum of string quartets filling the air. I was in my dream dress, a flowing lace gown that made me feel like a princess, and my husband-to-be, Ethan, looked at me with eyes full of love. We'd been together for 5 years, building a life away from the chaos of my family. My parents had divorced when I was young, and my mom remarried quickly to a man named Robert, bringing his son, my stepbrother Jake, into the mix. Jake was always the wild card, charming on the surface, but with a smirk that hid something darker. We'd never been close. He resented me for stealing his dad's attention, and I tiptoed around him to keep the peace. The ceremony went off without a hitch. Vows exchanged, rings on fingers, and that magical first kiss as husband and wife. Everyone cheered. And for a fleeting moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, my family could put aside the old grudges. But then came the reception. The toasts began innocently enough, my best friend sharing funny stories from college, Ethan's brother teasing him about his terrible dancing. Laughter echoed through the tent, and I relaxed, sipping champagne, my hand intertwined with Ethan's. Then it was Jake's turn. He stood up, glass in hand, that familiar smirk playing on his lips. To Amelia and Ethan, may your marriage be as honest and transparent as our family has always been. A few chuckles rippled through the crowd, but I felt a knot twist in my stomach. Something in his tone was off. He paused, scanning the room, and locked eyes with me. You know, Amelia, I've always admired how you've held everything together. But today, on this special day, I think it's time we all come clean. No more secrets. The room fell silent. My heart pounded. What was he doing? He raised his glass higher. Let's start with the big one. Dad, you remember that business trip you took last year? The one where you weren't alone? Gasps erupted from the tables. My stepdad Robert turned pale, his face draining of color as he gripped the edge of the table. My mom shot up from her seat, her eyes wide with fury. Jake, stop this right now, she hissed. But he ignored her, turning to the crowd. And Amelia, sweet sister, did you ever wonder why Mom was so quick to remarry after Dad left? Turns out she and Robert here had been seeing each other long before the divorce papers were signed. My world tilted. I stared at him, my bouquet still clutched in my hands, wilting under the heat of the spotlights. Whispers turned to murmurs, and relatives began shifting uncomfortably. Ethan's grip tightened on my arm, his face a mask of confusion and concern. But Jake wasn't done. Oh, and let's not forget about Aunt Clara over there. That inheritance she got from Grandma? Yeah, it wasn't exactly fair and square. She forged a few signatures to cut out the rest of us. Aunt Clara, my mom's sister, slammed her hand on the table, her chair scraping back loudly. "You little liar!" she shouted, her voice cracking. Chaos erupted, people yelling, chairs toppling, and my perfect day crumbling like a house of cards. I stood there, frozen, as the stakes hit me like a tidal wave. This wasn't just about old grudges. This was my wedding, my new beginning with Ethan. If I let this spiral, it could tear apart not just my family, but my marriage before it even started. Ethan leaned in, whispering, "Amelia, say something. We can't let him ruin this." But what could I say? Confront Jake and risk escalating the madness? Or swallow my pride to keep the peace? My mind raced, emotions swirling, anger, betrayal, heartbreak. I had always been the peacemaker, the one who smoothed over the cracks in our blended family. But now, with everyone staring, I felt the weight of it all pressing down. As the arguments grew louder, Jake turned to me again, his eyes gleaming with triumph. Come on, sis, don't you want the truth? Or are you afraid of what else I might say? My blood boiled. Brave Amelia, the one who'd fought through years of family drama, was bubbling to the surface. But just as I opened my mouth to respond, my real dad, my biological father, who I'd invited against Mom's wishes, stood up from the back, his face thunderous. Enough. Jake, you have no idea what you're unleashing. The reception tent felt like a pressure cooker, ready to explode. My biological dad, Thomas, who I hadn't seen in years except for awkward holiday cards, marched forward, his voice cutting through the noise like a knife. Jake, sit down. This isn't your story to tell. But Jake laughed, a bitter, mocking sound that sent chills down my spine. Oh, Uncle Tom, or should I say Dad? Wait, no. That's the real bombshell, isn't it? Wait, what? The room spun. I grabbed Ethan's arm for support, my knees weakening. Thomas froze, his eyes darting to my mom, who looked like she'd seen a ghost. Robert, my stepdad, slowly rose, his fists clenched. What the hell are you talking about, boy? Jake's smirk widened. Come on, family, let's air it all out. Amelia, did you know that Thomas here isn't your real father? Mom had a little affair back in the day and poof, here you are, the product of her secret fling with Robert's brother. That's right, folks. I'm not just your stepbrother. We're blood related in the most twisted way. Screams echoed. My mom collapsed into her chair, sobbing, while Aunt Clara pointed accusingly at Jake. How dare you? You have no proof. But Jake pulled out his phone, waving it like a weapon. Oh, I have proof. DNA tests, emails, the works. I've been digging for years. My heart shattered. All those years of feeling like an outsider in my own family suddenly made horrific sense. The stakes were high sky now, not just my wedding, but my entire identity. Who was I if everything I'd known was a lie? Ethan pulled me aside as the room descended into pandemonium. Amelia, we need to get out of here. This is insane. But I couldn't leave. Not yet. I was emotional, yes, but that bravery kicked in. I stormed up to Jake, my voice trembling but steady. Why? Why now on my wedding day? He leaned in close, his breath hot against my ear. Because you always got everything. The attention, the love. It's time you knew what it's like to lose it all. Just as I raised my hand to slap him, something I'd never done in my life, a crash sounded from the back. Robert had lunged at Thomas, fists flying. You bastard! You knew all along? The two men tumbled to the ground, knocking over a table of champagne flutes. Glass shattered, guests screamed, and security rushed in. In the midst of it all, I spotted my mom slipping out the side door, her face streaked with tears. Where was she going? What else was she hiding? I chased after her, my dress trailing in the grass, heart pounding. Mom, wait! She turned, her eyes filled with guilt. Amelia, I never wanted you to find out like this. But before she could explain, Jake's voice boomed from inside. And there's more about that accident last year. What accident? My mind flashed to the car crash that had hospitalized my dad, Thomas. Was that connected too? The night was far from over, and the secrets were just beginning to pour out. As I stood there in the garden, the cool evening air biting at my skin, my mom grabbed my hands, her grip desperate. Amelia, please, let's talk somewhere private. But the chaos from the tent spilled out, guests milling about, whispering, some even pulling out their phones to record the drama. Ethan caught up to me, his tux disheveled from trying to break up the fight inside. Babe, this is getting out of hand. The police might show up. He was right. The stakes had escalated from family embarrassment to potential legal mess. My perfect wedding, the one I'd planned for months to symbolize unity, was now a spectacle of betrayal. I nodded, leading Mom to a quiet bench under a string of fairy lights. Tell me everything, I demanded, my voice cracking with emotion. She sighed, wiping her eyes. It started before your father, Thomas, and I divorced. I was unhappy, and Robert's brother Mark was there for me. It was a mistake, a one-time thing, but you were the result. My world cracked further. Mark? The uncle who died young in a mysterious fire? The one we never talked about? So Jake knew because... Mom nodded. He found old letters when he was snooping as a teen. He's held it over my head for years, blackmailing me for money, favors. I thought paying him off would keep him quiet. Blackmail? My stepbrother had been extorting my mom? Fury bubbled inside me, mixed with a twisted pity for her. I'd always seen her as strong, but now she looked broken. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered. She sighed, wiping her eyes. "To protect you. You were so happy with Ethan. I didn't want to ruin that." Just then, a new wave of intrigue hit. Jake appeared at the edge of the garden, flanked by Aunt Clara, who was yelling at him. "You think you can destroy this family? I have secrets on you too, boy." Aunt Clara? The one Jake accused of forging Grandma's will? She marched over, her heels sinking into the grass. "Amelia, don't listen to him. He's the one who started that fire years ago, the one that killed Mark. It wasn't an accident. He was jealous of the attention Mark got." Jake's face twisted in rage. "Lies! You're the forger, Clara. You cut me out of the inheritance to fund your gambling habit." The accusations flew like arrows, each one piercing deeper. I felt like I was in a soap opera, but this was my life. Ethan stepped in, ever the voice of reason with a touch of humor to lighten the mood. "Okay, folks, this isn't a reality TV show. Can we not turn my wife's wedding into an episode of Family Feud gone wrong?" His joke elicited a weak cluckle from me, but the tension remained thick. The stakes were personal now. If Jake's fire accusation was true, he could be a criminal. And if Clara was gambling away family money, what else had been hidden? As we argued, Thomas, my not biological dad, limped out, a bruise forming on his cheek from the scuffle with Robert. "Amelia, I raised you as my own. That has to count for something." His words tugged at my heartstrings. He'd been there for every birthday, every scraped knee. But the betrayal stung. "Did you know?" I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. "I suspected, but I loved you too much to let it change anything." Emotions overwhelmed me, gratitude mixed with anger. How could they all lie for so long? And just as I was about to demand more answers, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Check the cake table. There's a gift from me. Jay." Jake? What game was he playing now? I rushed back to the tent, heart racing, only to find a small envelope tucked under the wedding cake. Inside was a USB drive labeled "The Real Truth." My hands shook as I pocketed it. What could be on there? Photos? Recordings? Something that could destroy us all? Ethan grabbed my arm. "Don't open it alone. We do this together." But as we turned, Jake was gone, vanished into the night. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the cops. The night was spiraling, and I had a choice: pursue the truth and risk everything, or bury it to salvage what was left of my wedding. But curiosity won, and as I plugged the drive into my laptop that night in our honeymoon suite, yes, we skipped the rest of the reception. The files loaded, revealing something that changed everything. The honeymoon suite was supposed to be our sanctuary, a luxurious room with rose petals on the bed and a bottle of chilled champagne. Instead, it felt like a war room. Ethan and I sat on the edge of the bed, my wedding dress rumpled and stained from the grass, as I inserted the USB drive into my laptop. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, his hand on my knee. I nodded, my emotional side screaming for answers, my brave heart pushing me forward. "We have to know." The drive contained folders labeled with dates and names: Mom's affair, Clara's forgery, the fire, and one that made my blood run cold: Amelia's secret. My secret? What could Jake possibly have on me? I clicked the first folder. Photos popped up. Grainy images of my mom and Mark, Robert's brother, in intimate settings from years ago. Letters scanned in, confessing their love. It was all true. Ethan whistled low.
This is heavy stuff. But then came the audio files. One was a recording of Jake confronting Mom. Pay me $10,000 or I tell everyone. Blackmail. Confirmed. Next, Clara's folder. Bank statements showing transfers from Grandma's estate to online casinos and a scanned will with suspicious signatures. She really did forge it, I murmured, feeling a pang of sympathy for Jake. He'd been cut out unfairly, but that didn't excuse his actions. The fire folder was chilling. Police reports from Mark's death, hinting at arson, and an anonymous tip email Jake had sent years later admitting he'd started it in a fit of teenage rage over feeling neglected. "Oh my God," Ethan said. "Is he confessing?" My hands trembled as I opened Amelia's secret. Inside was a single video file. It played me at 16 in a heated argument with Thomas after he caught me sneaking out. In the heat of the moment, I'd yelled, "You're not even my real dad. Mom told me everything." Wait, what? I didn't remember that. Had I known subconsciously? The video cut to Jake's voiceover. "You knew all along, sis, but repressed it. And now you're just like them, living a lie." I slammed the laptop shut, tears streaming down my face. The stakes hit harder than ever. Not only was my family fractured, but my own mind had buried the truth to cope. How could I trust anyone, including myself? Ethan pulled me into a hug. "Hey, you're still you, brave, emotional Amelia. We'll get through this." His words were a lifeline, injecting a bit of humor when he added, "At least our wedding will make for one hell of a story at parties. Remember when the stepbrother dropped bombshells instead of confetti?" But the twists kept coming. My phone rang. "Mom. Amelia. Jake's at the house. He's threatening to go public online if we don't meet his demands." Demands? More money? I stood, resolve hardening. "We're coming." We drove to my childhood home, the place where all these secrets had festered. The living room was a standoff. Mom, Robert, Thomas, Clara, all there, glaring at Jake, who lounged on the couch like he owned the place. "You think you can control us forever?" I said, storming in. Jake laughed. "I have more. Like how Thomas covered up the car accident last year, the one where he was drunk driving and hit a pedestrian." Thomas paled. "It was an accident. I paid them off to keep it quiet." Another layer peeled back. The room erupted in accusations again, but I raised my voice. "Stop! This ends tonight." As we argued, a knock at the door startled us. Police officers stood there. We received a call about a disturbance at a wedding, and now here. Someone mentioned arson and forgery. Who called them? Eyes turned to me, but it wasn't me. Clara smirked. "I did. Time to end this charade." Betrayal upon betrayal. Jake bolted for the back door, but Robert tackled him. "Not so fast, son." In the scuffle, Jake's phone fell out, screen lighting up with unsent posts, all the secrets ready to blast on social media. I grabbed it, deleting them furiously. But as the cops cuffed Jake for the outstanding arson warrant they just confirmed, he whispered to me, "You'll regret this. There's one more secret. About Ethan." About Ethan? My husband? My heart stopped. What could Jake possibly know about him?
The police hauled Jake away in handcuffs, his eyes boring into mine with a promise of more chaos. The house fell into an uneasy silence, broken only by Mom's quiet sobs and Thomas nursing his bruises. Clara excused herself, muttering about lawyers while Robert poured drinks for everyone. Ethan squeezed my hand. "It's over, right?" But Jake's parting words echoed. A secret about Ethan. My emotional cork cracked, doubt creeping in on my wedding night. The stakes were intimate now. If there was something hidden in my marriage, it could shatter everything I'd fought for. I pulled Ethan aside to the kitchen. What did he mean? Is there something I should know? He looked genuinely confused, then his face fell. "Amelia, there's something I haven't told you, but it's not what you think." My heart raced. He took a deep breath. Before we met, I had a brief fling. Nothing serious. But it was with Jake's ex-girlfriend. He found out years ago and threatened to tell you if I didn't back off from the family. I ignored him, thinking it was a bluff. A fling with Jake's ex-girlfriend? It was minor compared to the family bombshells, but the deception stung. Why hide it? I asked, tears welling. Ethan cupped my face. I was ashamed. It was before us, and I didn't want to drag old drama into our life. His honesty disarmed me, and a reluctant laugh escaped. Well, tonight's full of surprises. At least yours isn't arson or forgery. We shared a tense chuckle, the humor a brief respite in the storm. But the twists weren't done. As we rejoined the group, Mom dropped another bomb. Amelia, there's more to Mark's death. Jake didn't start the fire alone. I helped cover it up. What? She explained. Jake, at 15, had set the fire in jealousy, but she'd found out and paid off investigators to rule it accidental, fearing losing both sons. Robert nodded grimly. We all protected him. That's why he blackmailed us. We were complicit. The weight of generations of lies pressed down. Thomas added that, I knew about you not being mine biologically, but I chose to stay. Love isn't just blood. Their confessions, raw and vulnerable, humanized them. I felt a surge of empathy amid the anger. We were all flawed, trying to shield each other in twisted ways. Dawn broke as we talked it out, emotions pouring like rain. I confronted each one, my bravery shining through tears. We can't keep burying this. Therapy, honesty, from now on. They agreed, exhausted but relieved. But just as hope flickered, my phone buzzed. A message from Jake at the station. Tell them about the will's hidden clause. Grandma left everything to you, Amelia, not Clara. Hidden clause? I rushed to Grandma's old safe, which Clara had inherited. Inside, the original will. Yes, everything to me, with a note, for the one who holds the family together. Clara had forged a version to claim it. Another twist, now I was the heir. Ethan joked, great, now we're rich. Honeymoon upgrade? Laughter broke the tension, but the climax loomed, deciding what to do with the inheritance and Jake's fate. In the end, I chose forgiveness with boundaries. We pressed charges on Jake for blackmail, but advocated for rehab over jail, recognizing his pain. Clara returned the money ashamed, and me? I donated part of the inheritance to family counseling programs, turning poison into purpose. But as we wrapped up, police returned with news that shocked us all.
The officers stood in the doorway, expressions grave. Ma'am, about Jake, he's confessed everything, but there's a complication. During booking, he mentioned a hit and run from last month, claims it was Thomas. All eyes turned to Thomas, who slumped in defeat. It was me. I panicked, thought no one saw. The room gasped. Another secret? The climax hit like a thunderclap, years of cover-ups culminating in this moment of total unraveling. I stood, emotions exploding. How deep does this go? Lies on lies. Thomas broke down. I'm sorry, Amelia. I was scared of losing you all. The family fractured further, arguments flaring. Robert yelled at Thomas. Mom defended him weakly. Clara sneered. But I, the emotional anchor, slammed my fist on the table. Enough. We're ending this cycle now. In that peak of chaos, bravery took over. I called a family meeting right there, forcing everyone to air grievances. Tears flowed, truths emerged. Mom's affair stemmed from loneliness, Robert's silence from fear, Clara's forgery from debt desperation. Even Ethan's minor secret was dissected, strengthening our bond. It was raw, painful, but cathartic, like lancing a wound. As the sun rose higher, resolution dawned. We agreed to turn everything over to the authorities. No more hiding. Thomas surrendered for the hit and run. Jake faced his charges. Clara admitted forgery. It hurt, but it was necessary. For me, the inheritance became a tool for healing, funding legal fees and therapy for all. Ethan and I finally escaped to a quiet hotel, our honeymoon delayed, but deeper. "You're incredible," he said, "brave through it all." I smiled, exhausted but empowered. But one last twist lingered. What else might surface as we rebuilt? Looking back, that wedding day was a turning point. Not the fairy tale I envisioned, but the catalyst for real change. I learned that families are messy, secrets corrosive, but forgiveness and honesty can rebuild stronger foundations. I'm Amelia, still emotional, still brave, and now wiser. What about you? Have you ever had a family secret blow up at the worst moment? Share in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. If you enjoyed this tale of betrayal, resilience, and redemption, hit that subscribe button for more real-life inspired dramas. Remember, standing up for the truth, even when it hurts, is the ultimate act of courage.